Zoom etiquette. It was a subject that was apparently mandatory in every Hogwarts class now that the wizarding world had gone into lockdown due to an unforeseen global pandemic. But some students were struggling to adapt to the new technology. For example, when Professor McGonagall was talking about transfiguration theory and she asked if anyone had any questions. One student with a very distinctive messy mop of red hair didn't have their microphone muted. And before anyone else could speak, they heard a loud, "Hey, Professor McGonagall, does that mean we can turn trolls into teapots?" They all stared at Ron as he slowly turned bright red. I didn't mean to. I don't know how to unmute it," he stammered, blushing so hard that his freckles almost seemed to vanish from his face. McGonagall sighed. "Mr. Weasley, I swear that if you can't control your mouth, I will turn you into a toad and you can sit in the staff room until this is over. Now then, has anyone else got a question?" "Yes, Miss Granger." "Jet. Just a quick thing," Professor Hermione said, raising her hand like she always did. "About the unmuting your microphone thing, I think it would be best if we could have that as an option rather than having to ask for it each time, because then we can just do it quickly ourselves without interrupting everyone else." "Excellent suggestion," Hermione McGonagall said, smiling warmly. "And I'll pass that on to the ER Ministry Fellow responsible for setting up these Zoom calls. Speaking of which, Mr. Potter, where are you?" His picture was still on the screen, but it was really weird because there was a large white owl sitting on his head. It was blocking the whole thing. "He's here, isn't he, Hagrid?" McGonagall asked. The half-giant gamekeeper was also on the call, but instead of being sat at his desk like the students, he was stood in a garden full of pumpkins and the occasional unicorn. "Course he is," Professor Hagrid said with a chuckle. "That's Hedwig, ain't it? Harry. She likes flying about on these fine days." Just then, Harry's screen went blank. "I'm sorry, Hagrid." Harry's voice suddenly came from below them. "Didn't realize she'd flown right across the webcam." Hagrid roared with laughter. "Don't worry about it, Harry. Happens to me all the time. Try and shoo her off, though, will ya?" "Okay," Harry said, but his voice was really quiet. "Hedwig, come on, girl, behave." Of course, Hedwig didn't listen. She was far too busy swooping and diving around the garden, catching gnats in her beak and refusing to budge from her perch on Harry's laptop. "Come on, Hedwig," Harry hissed, reaching out to try and shoo her away. Jew, blocking the whole screen. "I can't see what Professor McGonagall's doing." But Hedwig refused to move. And instead, she cocked her head to one side and hooted loudly, staring straight down the lens of the webcam. Suddenly, Harry's screen went black again. This time, it wasn't because Hedwig was sitting on it. "Oh no," he muttered. "I pressed the wrong button and now I've turned my camera off." "I'm so sorry, it's quite all right, Mr. Potter," McGonagall said soothingly. "These things happen. Just make sure that next time you want to turn your camera off, you select the option to keep you muted as well. Or you might accidentally cast a spell on us all." They all stared at Harry expectantly. He blushed and opened his mouth to say something, but before he could speak, he froze. His eyes widened and his hand shot out like lightning, hitting the stop button on the screen as a loud crash echoed from behind the laptop. "What just happened?" Hermione asked. "Well, that was interesting," McGonagall said dryly. "Mr. Potter, are you enjoying some spontaneous entertainment for us?" No, I didn't do that," Harry said, shaking his head frantically. "It must have been Hedwig. She flew into the window and set off Wingardium Leviosa. I think I need to put her in timeout." "Timeout, Harry," Hermione said, giggling. "Only kids get timeout." "Well, maybe she needs a timeout from the timeout," Harry retorted. They all stared at the screen for a moment, watching as Hedwig ruffled her feathers and paced back and forth. Every now and again, she would leap up onto the windowsill and stare out into the garden. "So," McGonagall said awkwardly, who wants to go next?" Can I please go next?" "Please, Professor," Ron asked eagerly. She turned back to the camera and smiled. "Why, of course, Mr. Weasley, you may present on trolls, even though I suspect your sister Ginny will be more qualified to talk about that than you are." Ron blushed again, this time a slightly different shade from the last time. It's all good, Professor. I've already done loads of research on trolls." I've even spoken to a few friends about it. Yeah, I'm good. All right then, McGonagall said. Why don't you show us a little demonstration of how to capture a troll and bring it back to the castle? Oh, great idea, Professor, Ron said. Perfect, absolutely brilliant. Let's do it. With that, Ron stood up and held his arms out wide. A Keo mountain troll. Everyone stared at him as nothing happened. Then Hermione burst out laughing. Did you forget to, mute yourself, Speedsay? Ron looked down and realized that he hadn't. Then he made a mad dash for his microphone, but he was too late. McGonagall was already staring at the screen, and a large, hairy mountain troll had appeared behind Ron. It was holding a rusty club and snarling ferociously. Brilliant. Just brilliant, Ron said, hiding behind his desk. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. I meant to say Wingardium Leviosa, not Accio. I've got it. Leviosa. The troll took a step forward and swung its club. Before it could hit anything, however, it vanished. In its place was a small, fluffy kitten that looked like it had just crawled out of a shoebox. Oh dear, McGonagall said. Looks like someone's done a confundo on the troll. Mr. Weasley, not me. Professor Ron squeaked. I haven't even touched my wand yet. I think one of the twins must have messed with me somehow. They're probably laughing at me right now. As if on cue, Fred and George popped onto the screen, both doubled over with laughter. Oh my God, that was brilliant, George said between fits of giggles. Who'd have thought a simple confundo curse would bring down a troll? Yeah, I can't believe anyone could be so stupid as to not know that you should mute yourself, Fred added. Before George or Fred could say anything else, their screen went black. I'm so sorry, Professor, George said apologetically. We didn't mean to mess with Ron, we just wanted to play a little prank on him. And it just slipped our minds to, mute ourselves. Haha. The two sets of screens were now black, leaving only Harry, Hermione, and McGonagall visible. Mr. Potter, McGonagall said, turning back to Harry, would you care to enlighten us on the dangers of not muting yourself on a Zoom call? Harry looked from Hermione to the twins and back again. Well, I suppose I could tell them to just mute themselves. Or they could just read the message at the bottom that says mute yourself when you're not talking, or wait till they get to the part where it tells them to. McGonagall nodded approvingly. Excellent idea, Mr. Potter. Just make sure you follow those guidelines yourself, won't you?